Albert Walker thought that he had committed the perfect murder and that he was going to get away with it.
It's 5 a.m. in Brixton Harbour, Devon. The sky was still deep navy blue, the air crisp and heavy with the scent of salt and fish. Two fishermen were preparing for what they expected to be an ordinary day at the sea. They loaded up their nets, adjusted their gear, and set off. Waited an hour passed. Then movement. And then a man's body tumbled on the deck. A grotesque silence fell over the boat. The fishermen froze, their breath caught in their throats. The corpse lay twisted around the writhing fish, its limbs stiff, its skin pale from the cold grip of the sea. One of the fishermen staggered back, his voice hoarse. He grabbed the radio and called the Coast Guard.
Brixton Coast Guard, Brixton Coast.
At first, the Devon and Cornwall police assumed it was just another tragic incident, of course, a simple case of a man lost at the sea. But as they examined the body, things didn't add up, of course. The man was remarkably in good condition for someone who had supposedly been floating in salt water. He was dressed in a long-sleeved shirt, trousers, and polished brown shoes. His pockets were empty, completely turned out as if someone had already searched him. But they were thinking, how are you going to identify this person? But it was in that moment when a Rolex caught their attention. A Greenwich Rolex was on one of the hands of the guy. It remained strapped to the dead man's wrist. It was stopped at 20 seconds. A crucial clue that would later unravel an entire web of deception and murder. The pathologist examined the body and found something even more disturbing. A deep gash on the head. Not just a bump from a fall, but a deliberate crushing wound. Something or someone had done this to him. And then there was one last clue. A small faded tattoo on the back of his right hand. At first, the detective thought it was a simple cluster of stars, but upon closer inspection, it looked a little bit familiar. A Canadian maple leaf. The case was at standstill with no ID, no wallet, no missing person report. Detectives had a little to go on. Until a conversation between two officers changed everything.
My officer was talking to another police officer who said, well, if it's a Rolex watch, if it's a genuine Rolex, it'll have a serial number.
The watch was sent to Rolex headquarters in London, and within hours a response came back. The Rolex had been serviced multiple times at a jewelry in Yorkshire, and it had a name attached to it. Finally, Ronald Joseph Platt. The dead man had a name. Detective tracked down Platt's last known address, a small rental property in Chelmsford, Essex. But when they knocked on the door, the landlord gave them an unexpected answer. Ronald Platt? Oh no, he doesn't live here anymore. But I can give you the name of his reference contract. Mr. David Davis. A call was made immediately. David Davis answered. Calmly, his full voice was almost composed. So when the officer called, he was like, "Hello, is this Mr. Davis?" "Yes. I'm calling to know." At first, the officer didn't want to tell Mr. Davis what had really happened. He was like, "Okay, there's this and that, And then Mr. Davis was so inquisitive until the police said, "Your friend, Mr. Platt, Ronald Platt, was found dead." Somehow, he wasn't convinced whether Mr. Davis was either shocked or what. Because the response Mr. Davis gave was like, he kept quiet for a minute and he said, "That's unfortunate." However, it was hard for the detective to know the real reaction of a person over the phone because it's over the phone, of course. Detective exchanged uneasy glances. Something wasn't right. One detective noted. They requested to meet Mr. Davis. However, immediately he agreed. David Davis was everything you wouldn't expect in a murderer. When detectives met him, he was charming, polite, articulate. He was well dressed but casual, the kind of man who oozed confidence without arrogance. He sat across them, legs crossed, leaning forward, hands folded on a table as if he had the one contracting the interview. Ron was a dear friend, he said smoothly. I loaned him money so he could start a business in France. I'm shocked. He kept quiet for a little bit. I'm shocked he's gone. The officers watched him carefully. You know, that type of detective kind of watch. They watched him carefully. So one of the officers said, like, do you have any photos of him? One asked. David nodded immediately. Of course, give me a few minutes and I will send it to you. He was too prepared, too cooperative, and yet the case was officially closed. Okay, so the detectives went and said, like, you know what, since we don't have much information, probably we should close the case. Ronald Platt had likely fallen over the board and drowned. A tragic incident that happens often in the sea. But they sent one detective to go and give the report. This was after David Davis had sent them a picture and he had circled the picture Ron, indicating this was Ronald Platt. A week later, an officer was sent to deliver a message to Davis at his hometown in a small rural village of Woodham, Walter. When he knocked on a door, unfortunately,